Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, OG.
Good morning, Dr. Bati. How are you?
How was your weekend?
It was excellent. I love your tie. It's actually very cute.
Thank you.
Good morning, Tundun. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good morning, Rufai. How are you?
Great, OG. Had a great weekend. Trust you did.
I did. Thank you. Well, good morning to you, viewers. We begin what's trending in Nigeria. Reactions have been trailing the rescue operation by the United States Navy SEALs of an American held hostage in the northern border of Nigeria. The American was taken hostage by armed men last week in Niger and was taken to the border where U.S. forces freed him without suffering any casualties. While at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania over the weekend, Donald Trump congratulated the troops and said the U.S. troops have been successful in getting many hostages back home. Well, let's take a listen to that part of his speech before we take some reactions.
Last night, our brave special forces rescued an American hostage in a faraway country. So incredible people. And I was in Fort Bragg yesterday, and I met a lot of these incredible, talented, strong, both physically and mentally, the strongest, the best in the world. But we had a mission sent to a faraway land where they kidnapped an American citizen, and the kidnappers wished they had never done it. And they went in with a large group, 0 casualties. We got our American citizen, young man, we got our young man back. But the other side suffered gravely, I can tell you that. Our nation salutes its courageous military, which brilliantly executed this operation. Very few people would have been able to do it. It was very complicated, a very complex, tough area. We celebrate the safe return home of an American hostage. We've gotten many hostages home.
Donald Trump. I mean, first, we must congratulate the troops for a successful mission. I mean, it is true that American troops have been successful in, releasing their hostages. But there are still Americans that are held hostage. For example, the 60-year-old humanitarian who's been, captured for over 4 years in the same Niger.
Jeremy Woodka.
Correct, yes. Right, yes. And, but Nigerians are outraged, and rightfully so. And this is because, when an American citizen is captured, they work with local forces in order to help with their rescue mission. And, our Nigerian military, for some reason, have not proven that they are working with international intelligence to help free our, we also have our Chibok girls, we have Leah Sharibu, still held in captivity. And all they can tell us is that Boko Haram and terrorists have been technically defeated. And this mission just proves them wrong because, reports are indicating that, they worked with, U.S. intelligence and the Nigerian government in this rescue mission. I'll take a tweet before we discuss. And this is from lawyer and activist Okpe Akinyode, who wrote, breaking, military have conducted a successful rescue mission in northern Nigeria in respect of an American citizen who was held hostage by a group of armed men. This development exposes the falsehood of the Nigerian Army over its technical defeat of the militants in the north. Tundun.
That's exactly where my mind went. I'm really happy for the family of Philip Walton,
yes,
the 27-year-old who was kidnapped in Niger, in Masalata, a village near the border with Nigeria. He was ambushed in his backyard in the home where he lives with his wife and his young daughter, and they asked him for money, and he offered them $40, which apparently was insufficient. So they took him away forcefully. But he's so lucky in the sense that the American forces were able to enter into this international cooperation, and he was released. The problem that happened to Jeffrey Woodka, unfortunately, is that it wasn't as quick with him, and the reports suggest, unfortunately, that he might have been sold off to Al-Qaeda, that the people who kidnapped him were probably not terrorists, like in this case, but then they do sell them off to terrorists, and that's what makes it harder. And like the journalist Austin Tice, that has not been seen for 8 years, since 2012, because he was sold off to Al-Qaeda, American journalist as well. And just last month, Donald Trump got a team together to try and get that man released, Austin Tice. But because for Donald Trump, this is a huge victory, because it's one of his totems of his foreign policy that all American hostages will be released and that America will really back out of all their entanglements abroad. America first, that policy. And it's extremely popular with the American public, as it ought to be. It just shows the value of American lives to the American government. And this is what we want to see here. Bring back our girls. It's just so tragic that our Chibok girls are still missing. Leah Sharibu, humanitarian workers, the best of humanity, are treated in this fashion. They're abducted and nothing is heard from them. Videos are shown of them, and there appears to be no means of having them released. It's so hurtful as a Nigerian, and you wonder what your life means to your government as a Nigerian. You also thought of the xenophobic attacks on Nigerians in South Africa and how our government was playing the whole diplomatic political card. Look at how America sent in SEAL Team 6, and they shot 6 out of 7 people. Apparently, before they even knew what had happened, they shot first and asked questions later because of one American life. And it just goes to show this is what Nigerians want from our government.
Very well said, Tundun. Very well said.
Well, first, let's commend the Navy's SEAL Team 6, the Navy's Sea, Air, and Land Team, which is a special warfare within the U.S. Naval Command that has been seeing action since World War II. And there are many teams deployed. And this particular Navy SEAL Team 6 that was sent to Nigeria has seen action everywhere, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. And this was the team that was sent to go and kill Osama bin Laden. Not the same, it may not be the same personnel, but it was under that particular team. They've changed the name to DevGro, which is a national, a special war deployment group. So it was an elite team that was sent to Nigeria. That's how important the life of an American is to the government of America. Now, the statement that was issued both by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and the U.S. mission in Nigeria said that we will never abandon any American held hostage. Now, if we interpret that, if we deconstruct that, what is being said is that the life of every American is important. And if you hold on to any American anywhere, be it in Afghanistan, where we have seen a similar operation, be it in Iraq or Iran or Guatemala or even in Cuba, you can be sure that America will come for you. So there is a lesson there for Nigerians and for African countries. Here, because we are over 200 million people, if you kill 10 Nigerians, people will say only 10. Some will even attach an ethnic label to it and say, oh, only 10 Igbos were killed. So why are you disturbing yourself out of 200 million? So we see an example that we have seen from the United States where every life matters. Every life is important. And you can be sure as a citizen that your country can look out for you. There are very few countries that do that in the world. Israel, the raid on Entebbe, Uganda, Israel went to free his people. But however, people who are celebrating this should be reminded of the fact that it's not always that rescue operations succeed. This was a risky and also a lucky operation. There have been cases, take Iran, in April 1980, the United States, under Carter, President Carter, tried to go and rescue the Americans who had been held hostage in the U.S. embassy in Iran. Well, they didn't succeed. At the end of the day, Algeria had to broker negotiations, and they were eventually released in 1981. In the Gulf of Aden, Somalia, there was an attempt in 2010, 2011 to free some persons who had been taken by pirates. They were killed before they got there. Norgrove, the Scottish aid worker, also around 2011, that the British invited these same American forces, Special Operation Forces, as they were otherwise called. They didn't succeed. But this time around, they succeeded. But what is important is this whole point about the value that a country puts on human life.
Yes.
I've seen some people trying to say, well, President Trump is trying to make it, well, that's neither here nor there.
Oh, it's not even true.
No, what is important is the message.
Really?
And we ought to learn the lesson from there. In fact, I was surprised when I was told that, our partners supported us. I said, the same Nigeria that cannot, free, one hostage or the other, is cooperating. Maybe there are lessons that we can learn from there. We have some kind of military cooperation, bilateral, with the United States. Is it possible for us to also engage the United States to see how help can be provided with regard to cases of banditry in Nigeria? Because this was associated not to terrorism, but to banditry for ransom.
Exactly.
And we have many cases like that. So even if it means inviting the Navy SEAL 6 at whatever cost to come and help us storm Sambisa.
That's the conversation.
I'm sure Nigerians will like that. So the big takeaway is a lesson about how no Nigerian anywhere in the world should be held hostage. However, I can imagine Abike Dabiri saying that the Diaspora Commission has also done a lot with regard to Nigerians arrested maybe for drug trafficking in Saudi Arabia and other parts of the Middle East, or also in Asia. We too, at the level of citizen diplomacy, we can cite that example of diplomatic efforts that have been made. But at a higher level, where banditry, kidnapping, terrorism is involved, the Americans have just taught us a very important lesson.
And I'd like to just quickly say, American hostages get killed 4 times more than any other nationality. So all of these are not always successful operations. But the fact is that they try. Kyla Mueller, whose case I followed closely, broke my heart. That young lady who was, I can't even repeat what was done to her. Even though she died, she was killed, her parents still went to the Republican convention to support Donald Trump because they appreciate that every effort was made to release their daughter.
All right. Rufai, your take on the story.
I mean, real quickly, just cast your mind back. This reminds me of Delta Force a lot. Chuck Norris, it just shows the American triumphalism and the likes. But I'm going to disagree quickly with Dr. Abati. There's a political angle to it. And I'm happy you talked about the Qatar issue and the hostage situation. Let's not forget that was one of the strong reasons behind Carter losing the elections to Ronald Reagan and Ronald Reagan finally becoming president. Let's not forget that the hostage were released a day or 2 after the inauguration of Ronald Reagan. And Carter still even had to take a victory lap and ensure that they were back home during that hostage situation. So hostage situation in America means a lot, and it takes a political dimension most times, sometimes. And this will score a big political point for Trump in Pennsylvania, where he was campaigning leading up to the election. But that will never denigrate the role, of government towards protecting its citizens. And America has said this over and over again. There's also a caveat Americans put in there that we're not going to negotiate with terrorists. We are not going to go negotiate. We're going to go in there and we're going to do a perfect job. And this also calls for Nigeria to even train its forces and train its military and have international dimensions to its training. And I'll give you a very good instance. This same team did the job with Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad. You need to see the precision at what you do the team. One of the team members then that finally left the Navy SEAL 6 team, Navy SEAL 6 team, wrote a book that I read. And the book depicted the precision management, how they had to suspend the Hawk helicopter in the air. These things can only come with training, and it comes with a lot of funding. The American military gets a lot of funding. So in the spirit of talking about our police force and talking about reform, we should be able to train our police force to a stage where they can go out and do this operation. Rather than SARS harassing citizens on the road, I want to see a point where SARS special units are disbanded now, or a special unit of the police force is taken to Sambisa Forest or taken to a place to do a special operation like this, and they come in and they come out to protect our citizens. But concerning international collaboration, so this is my fear. I remember at some point when the Chibok girls thing broke out, there was an international contingent of various troops and forces from America, from Israel and the likes. They came to Nigeria. Why did those troops leave so quickly in the end? Why did those troops leave? Let's not forget they were in Nigeria, but there were cases of complicity being reported. Why did those troops leave? So are we saying that we can't get troops to collaborate with us when they finally come? Why did they leave? Because I think if we have enough intelligence and we collaborate, we should be able to nip this in the bud. And lastly, it's not every time America collaborates. When America did the Osama bin Laden job, they didn't inform the Pakistani authorities in Abbottabad because they know the Pakistani authorities were already compromised with Al-Qaeda.
Great point, Rufai.
Good point, Rufai. We'll take another story. In Nigeria, residents of a community in Rivers State have accused the Nigerian Army of carrying out a series of extrajudicial killings of civilians in the community. The community is currently under a 24-hour curfew that was last week imposed by the governor of the state, Nyesom Wike. The governor cited the violence that broke out amongst suspected members of the indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB for short, in the aftermath of the NSAS protest. Well, over the weekend, amateur videos and reports from the residents making the accusations made rounds on social media with the hashtag Oyibo Massacre. On Sunday, human rights group Amnesty International called on the military authorities to exercise restraint and stop the killings. Well, here's a tweet from the group. They wrote, Amnesty International is receiving disturbing information from Oyibo River State. Despite the existing curfew, soldiers are allegedly invading homes. Some residents reported seeing dead bodies on the street, allegedly shot by soldiers. We are calling on the military authorities to exercise restraint and stop the killings. Hashtag Oyibo, hashtag Rivers. Well, you know, residents are also alleging that the military operation came days after the governor, you know, had asked security forces to deal with suspected IPOB members. And these videos that have been circulating on social media are showing the Nigerian Army, you know, going around the streets and enforcing that order, correct? And now it is unclear, you know, how the violence came about because the Nigerian Army actually had accused suspected IPOB members of killing at least 5, and also the police accused IPOB members of killing, you know, their officers. Even the government has not said anything about it, the governor himself. This has been circulating for over a week now. The governor, the military, the Nigerian Army has not said anything. Even the police has not said anything about this massacre. Tundu, if you see these images, they need to be investigated ASAP.
Of course, because regardless of whatever accusation has been leveled against these IPOB members, extrajudicial killing is not prescribed anywhere in law. And this reminds me of the OD massacre, where people in that village were alleged, certain individuals in that village were alleged to have killed security forces. And as a result, the whole village, including women and children, were killed. And because of that impunity, because nothing was done to redress that injustice that happened. Oh, by the way, there was an ultimatum. Give us 2 weeks, this is to the governor of Bayelsa at the time, who was Alamesia, to produce the people who massacred the soldiers and policemen, and nothing was done. But in less than 2 weeks, the soldiers moved in there and massacred the entire village. Nothing was done about that. So in Zaki Biam, in Benue State, when soldiers were killed in Zaki Biam, the soldiers took it as their carte blanche to roll in there and burn people alive and also kill women and children in that village. This is the problem with impunity. It just breeds greater crimes. We are still reeling from the aftermath of the Lekki shooting, when we're all being gaslighted as a nation. Do you watch Star Wars? You know I love Star Wars. The Jedi mind trick. What you saw, you did not see. We're still going through this huge Jedi mind trick of them telling us that this happened, that did not happen. Amnesty International against the police, against the military against the governor of Lagos. And now this has happened, and it just goes to show the importance of accountability and transparency. Otherwise, you get this culture where high-handedness, extrajudicial measures can be undertaken, and there are absolutely no consequences.
And before you know it, the Nigerian Army will say it's fake news or it's Photoshop.
It's very worrying.
Not enough.
It's
not enough for the Nigerian Army to continue to say these things.
Arrest and prosecution. You cannot go in and kill people.
Dr. Abati.
Well, the thing to note is that it is not true that the Nigerian military has not responded. You recall that during the NSAS protests, a police station was sacked in this Obigbo. They call it Obigbo, they call it Oyibo, you know, but I think it's the local government that is Obigbo local government area. a police station was sacked, and the DPO of the Obigbo police station was beheaded. And then chaos ensued. It was a major, that community was a major theater for the protest, for mayhem. And Governor Wike then proceeded to impose 24 hours curfew. And that has lasted now for more than 9 days. Now, what the Amnesty International has done is to raise questions.
Yes.
That there are alleged killings, brutality on the part of the police, of the soldiers going from house to house to shoot down people, to murder people. So allegations of extrajudicial killing. SERAP, the Socio-Economic and Accountability, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, has also called for a probe. And SERAP even went a step further, that other NGOs and also the media should show an interest in what is happening in Obigbo for Nigerians to know. However, there has been a response by the military. One Major Charles Ekocha of the 6th Division in Port Harcourt, I think, addressed the press or issued a statement in which he said, one, that in this particular community, 6 soldiers were killed.
Yes, that's what I said earlier.
Yes, and secondly, that rifles, army rifles were also seized. And that the reason they're on the ground there is to provide protection for the people of the community. Because if you have 6 rifles in the hands of some people, then such persons could now constitute a threat to the community. And that they've been invited in to ensure protection, one, and two, to get back those rifles from whoever took them. Sure. And then he made a point that the place is a hotbed of IPOB nationalists, and that they are asking that the community should cooperate with them to give them information. Right. And that if they've been to any house to search, it is based on the information that they have been given. That, look, there is an IPOB militant living in this particular house. And that's what they do. It's not because they are going from house to house to intimidate or harass people. So that's a way of balancing the story.
No, what
that's
have
the other
they
side of
said about the killings,
just
the
wait,
videos?
Just wait. I've just given you a report. You can go and research it, what Major Charles Ekocha said.
I read that.
Yeah,
statement.
he said that, look, they are not killing anybody, that they are providing protection. Now, the question now is whether we believe the Nigerian, the 6th Division in Port Harcourt or not. But whatever the truth of the matter is in that community, we will say to the Nigerian military that there must be no extrajudicial killing. Nigerians may not believe the 6th Division because they know that when you kill soldiers, the instinct of the average soldier is to retaliate. And they will say, if you killed 6 of us, we'll probably kill like times 3 times 10 so that you don't do it again. If that is the mindset, then the Chief of Army Staff should take an interest in what is going on in that community. It should be investigated immediately. And if those soldiers from the 6th Division are on reprisal killing, on a vengeance mission, that must be stopped. If anybody has killed any soldier, the appropriate thing to do is to contact trace those people, trace them, track them down, and make sure that the due process is followed. The Nigerian Army has no right, has no powers under the Constitution to take the law into its hands.
Very correct. I would not take my other story. I want your comment, Rufai, on this story.
I mean, real quickly, so for me, I'm going to look at it very holistically, and I feel very sad for Rivers State, because Rivers State has always been a hotbed. Look at even the last elections in Rivers State. The military was called in, see what happened. There were killings. Abunema was mayhem, because I had someone that was in Abunema at that period. And it speaks volumes about even the security situation in Rivers State. And I think the pre-existing security situation and insecurity in Rivers State was just heightened by these NSAS protests that snowballed into, nationalistic protest by the IPOB members and the likes and things like that in Rivers State. But all has been said as regards, doing things in accordance with the law, ensuring there's no extrajudicial killing. But for me, the charge will be, in the long run, how can the leaders or who will emerge governor in coming years in Rivers State help with a lot of the distribution of wealth that can cushion the effect of poverty in the land and that can help young people be engaged in the state. I think that's the far-reaching consequences, because over the years, when jobs started to leave Rivers State, there were far-reaching consequences. I keep referring to a report of somebody that told me that when they shut down the Michelin plant in Port Harcourt, these were the offshoots of the effect of that. They will see a lot of restiveness because people are not working and the likes. So it's always been a hotbed. This is just one trigger point. We hope this is quelled quickly. We hope the rights of people of Obigbo is respected. But most importantly, people, I don't know what they call them, Riverians or people from Rivers State, need to have the long drawn-out conversation about the economic stability and provision of jobs for the young people in the long run. Because Rivers State will continue to be a hotbed if jobs are not provided. Check the unemployment stats. You'll be shocked that some NDDC or Niger Delta states, as it were, where there's a lot of resource from, have the highest number of unemployment. I think Akwa Ibom leads the pack. Rivers State is not doing well as regards youth employment. And when you don't do well, that's a hotbed for crisis, and it's going to happen. So apart from this Obigbo incident, which I want everybody to exercise restraint as much as possible, and Amnesty International should keep the investigation on, we need to provide jobs for the young people in Rivers State to be able to move the state forward.
Well,
it's the garden city.
Thank you, OJ.
We're waiting for the investigations to go.
And that's all on what's trending.